Welcome in, everybody. I am trying out some new angles, so that's why we're shooting it this way instead of just your normal kind of selfie style. But um, this week we're gonna talk about the Motor Speedway Classic because I was there. At least I was for Saturday. So I want to do a quick little review. I was really excited about this trip. My dad came down from Illinois. This took place in Bristol, Tennessee, which I live in Tennessee, but it is still like 3 hours, 3.5 hours, depending on which route you take. So I want to talk about some of the positives and then the whole lot of negatives that I witnessed and partook in. So in general, like I got my tickets, I want to say like 4 or 5, maybe 6 weeks out. And I thought they were pretty fair, like for pricing or whatever, the way that regular baseball games are. Like it was the Reds versus the Braves, which not a marquee matchup, especially with the Braves not being very good this year, but still, like, nonetheless, not marquee matchup, but still, it's a game. It's a professional sports game. It's at a cool venue. So I thought the tickets were pretty fair from what I bought. Now, when I looked at them later on, that was like a week out, they had definitely tripled. And that's kind of the downfall of the ticket game and the way that they fluctuate with the markets and stuff like that. But needless to say, I spent $55 on my seats. I was basically like 300 level. They don't really label them that way, I guess, at a NASCAR stadium, which we'll talk about that shortly. But I was basically like 300 level in the outfield, and I was a little bit worried that like we were going to be too far away from the action. But ticket price fair enough for me if you get them at the right price. So when I drove through the area, Bristol's a pretty cool area. I'd only ever been there for work, dropping off patients previously many years ago. So didn't really have a lot of experience with Bristol. Driving through the area just kind of felt like a kind of a small town college city, which I like. I think that's cool. Like not too big, but obviously like when stuff goes on, that like the city swells, and I like that vibe. Nothing too major. I really didn't have any traffic issues at all. Like if you've ever gone to a game at like any major team, whether that's Chicago, Miami, even Milwaukee a little bit, or any of those, Atlanta, as soon as you start getting close to the stadium, like traffic swells, and if you don't know where you're going to go, you could easily lose 20-25 minutes going the wrong route and trying to turn around just because traffic is so bunched there. Didn't have any of those issues at all in Bristol, which I was thrilled about. Like the way that I was going, I had to basically drive past Bristol, Tennessee and go to Bristol, Virginia, which is, just over the border or whatever, because that's where the hotel that my dad got was at. So went there, had no issues with the hotel, had no issues with the traffic. Even once we kind of got situated, the hotel we were staying at, they had a thing on there that was like, hey, shuttle bus to and from the games or whatever. One way is $20, two ways is 40. And I was like, that could be a cool option, especially if like we want to drink or anything like that. But like me, I know how expensive alcohol is at baseball games. I don't normally buy any beers there. So I was like, let's drive down there. We got 2 hours before the game starts. Let's drive down there and see if we can find some parking, because my scouting was that you could go to Earhart Parking, which was like across the street, for $20. Or if you somehow wanted to get like a tailgating spot, it was 40. They did first come, first serve. I was really this was the major thing that I was worried about, because all of MLB's parking was sold out. So I was like somewhat freaking out, thinking like, if we really are going to have this 88,000 amount of people, how is the parking going to be handled? Like, are they going to have a bus system? Are they going to have it down the road? Like, I kind of expected maybe houses or families would like sell off their yards or whatever, and no issues at all. Like, it was 15 minutes away from our hotel, briefly on the highway for maybe like 5, got off. Then it was kind of like small town residential areas, kind of weaving in and out. And then when it finally started to, I guess, bunch up or slow down, it was because they were like waving people in to traffic spots or waving people to go straight and like stopping so people could cross the street after they park. So no issues at all with the traffic. Like I said, I got in there. I paid $20 cash. And I was there 2 hours early. Even when I left, the grass lots were like had so much space. So I don't know if they're. I know I was on one side. I think I was on the more, I think northwest side, and I know there was a lot of the MLB lots were more on the like northeast to southeast side. At least when I looked on the map. So I was like, okay, maybe that's where it was all bunched up. I don't know, but didn't have any issues with traffic getting in. The one thing that I will say that was a little bit of an issue was their grass lots. And it basically had rained my entire trip on the way up there, which was like Knoxville area mostly. And when I got up there, it slowed down a little bit, but then started raining again. So when I pulled into the grass, I got stuck. And I got a small car or whatever, like it's a 4-door hatchback, but it's small. So the traffic guy or whatever had to kind of push me out and say, like, go down that way a little bit. It's less dry and more stable, and then turn around. And even then I was like, well, how am I going to get out? And so he parked mine in like its own row next to like the gravel. So all I had to do was basically like peel off left, and I was on gravel. So solid, very helpful traffic guy like that. But I guess that's enough traffic. Cross the street, literally cross the street, no issues at all. And you're basically in like the fan zone area. Like you had the outside where there was vendors and food trucks and stuff like that. And it wasn't really that packed at all. Like I knew we were there like 2 hours early, but I was like, okay, kind of cool. And I like, my dad had been saying like our general game plan was like, if this is like a NASCAR event, let's like bring a grill and like grill out before the game. And again, didn't really know what our time frame was going to be, when we were going to get there, but we ended up getting there around like, I think 5. Well, he said along his trip, one of the pieces that connects the propane grill to the grill fell out of his truck. So I was kind of like, okay, well, we can't do that then. So I'm not going to worry about it. Let's just go find parking. So we walked in. There's food trucks. I was like, you want food? You want food? He was like, let's keep going. I'll get food. I'm in there. But they had like tents, they had shirts and stuff being sold. They had it's like a lot of college shirts too. So like you had your Georgia, you had your Tennessee, Ohio, because like you're kind of a, it's kind of like a Cincinnati versus Atlanta type of thing. So that was kind of cool. And then you keep walking, kind of go through like the metal detectors or whatever, and then suddenly you're in the fan zone. Now they had a ton of cool stuff. Like they had this cool little like tribute thing to a bunch of like Braves legends, Reds legends. So that was really cool. They like merch trucks, but they were like, I think if you've been to a couple of games, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Where like they have staff on the inside, they have stuff on the wall, and then you kind of just point to whatever you want. So they had a long little like line for all that. Too long for me, too busy for me. They had like a little batting cage area for like kids to hit. Like they had a bunch of like little activities. I think there was a Budweiser truck where you could like walk in and like drink and hang out, I guess, but there was a long line to get into that too. There's other like those little like sponsorship promo things out there. I'm sure some of them are giving away free swag, but like it was basically starting to rain, like not heavy yet, but like it was starting to rain. So it was kind of like, this place is packed. Every line's long. There's nothing that I really want to do here. I kind of want to just get into the game and like explore the ballpark / NASCAR track or whatever. I will say it was kind of cool seeing Jake Owens out there doing like a pre-show concert. Like I expected some like, I don't know, local talent or lesser known person out there maybe for the pregame, but no, Jake Owens was out there, hitting his greatest hits. So that was kind of cool to see. They had a Ferris wheel that was really pretty. I took some photos of that. Like the presentation was great on the outside, but then it was like, okay, well, it's about 5-ish or whatever, a little past 5. So I was like, I'm looking at our tickets because I'm not a fan of this, and not all apps do this, but apparently Ticketmaster is one of them, where you can't screenshot your tickets anymore with the QRC code or whatever. They have this new thing where it's like it kind of goes back and forth and dims in and out, so you basically have to have it active on your phone. Well, if you don't have good service or enough data or whatever to cover all those phones in that entire area, you can't get your phone to load, which means you can't get your tickets to scan. So I kept stressing out because I've had that happen to me before. many years ago, and that's why I always started screenshotting and having a photo of my ticket for that reason alone. Well, I guess you can't do that anymore. You can't do that through Ticketmaster. So luckily mine worked, and on it said go to gate 3. So I'm like, all right, well, apparently according to that map, we need to walk up this walkway, and then gate 3 is going to be over there. So we start walking. We walk past this area, whatever. It's probably like VIP interesting or whatever, and like look to our right, and they're like, oh, well, that's gate 3. So we start to walk over there. There's a long ass line all the way to the left that basically was on the hill that we just walked. There was nobody out there for tickets directing traffic or anything like that. So we walked down the hill, got at the end of the line that we basically just walked by as soon as we got in. And then of course, as the tickets, the gate area or whatever finally opened, well, then people were walking in from the side that we originally walked in, and were just basically like jumping the line. So that was frustrating. But again, first things for me, for somebody that's actually like went to school for sports management, worked in facilities at the school, worked at the Marlins. I've done 2 internships in high school and minor league. Like, facilities is kind of my thing. Operations is kind of my thing. Like, initially I always thought I would love to work in the front office of a baseball team, or maybe even basketball or football, depending. But then as I realized, like, you kind of need to know people to get into those jobs, I was like, yeah, operations and facilities, that might be more realistic. So I have a feel for some of these things because I've been on the other side and I've worked multiple venues. So I was like, why did you wait? Like, a lot of places for regular games, they'll open the gates an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if it's like football. That's normal. They kept that. So they opened the gates an hour and a half early, which I think was a major mistake because, yes, Jake Owens had his concert out there at 5 o'clock, and I'm assuming they wanted to keep their people kind of in the fan zone area. But you then, like, for 80,000 people that are there, maybe if it's even 65,000, you basically have them all waiting in line, congested to get into just these couple of gates. It's not a good idea, especially when at 6 o'clock was when the concert was supposed to start with Tim McGraw. So you basically had to be there, get in line, be in the gate and in your seat within a half hour of gates opening. That's not logistically good at all. I think a lot of people got there in time because they didn't go to the bathroom, they didn't get food, they didn't get merch, they didn't do anything. They just, gates are open, let's find our seat. Like, that's kind of what I did. So got in there. My dad, again, hadn't had any food, didn't get anything outside, was like, I just want like a burger or something. So we went in. Our ticket said gate 3, right? So we walk in gate 3, and the letter, like, in baseball, the way that seats are numbers. So you have your sections and numbers. You have your 100s, 101, 102, and that goes around the circle. But in the same spot as the 100, you then have your 200, then you have your 300, then your 400, and that's usually about all it is. So it's one number, and then maybe they have, row A, or, normally it's section 100. Then you have your rows that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, or maybe they're A, B, C, D, and then you have your numbers. Like, it's like that. I don't know if this is a NASCAR thing. I'm assuming it is. I don't have a lot of experience in NASCAR stadiums, but they had the same. And I'm assuming because it was so large, like this thing could hold like 125,000 people, I believe. They reused letters and just had different section names. So like, we walked in gate 3, looked up and saw the letters, and was like, okay, well, it said go into gate 3. So our tickets were in KL. So we went to KL. And I was like, okay, well, we're here at KL, and there's food out there. So I was like, hey, go get in the line, get some food. I'm going to go find our seats. So then I walked up in the KL section, and then I'm looking, and I'm like, well, I have seats 17 and 18, and these rows only go 1 through 16. And so, like, I'm kind of, like, trying to figure out, and I'm like, we're row 55, seats 17 and 18. I'm like, okay, well, maybe these lower levels only have 16 seats. So I'm climbing up. I get up there, they still only have 16 seats. So finally I'm confused. I turn around and I'm like, I'm at first base. Like, I'm still like in the the NASCAR bleachers speak or whatever, but I'm like, I'm basically at first base right now. My seats are in center field. So then that's kind of where I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to walk to the general area of where I'm supposed to be, and maybe I'll find another KL section out there. And that's what they did. So they had different names of, I think, NASCAR people, and then they had their lettering or whatever and their rows or whatever like that. Well, my dad's in line for food. I don't know where he went. So I texted him and said, we're in the wrong spot, but our tickets are out in center field, and this is first base. Like, they told us to go to gate 3. Really, we needed to go to like gate 4 or gate 5, which is kind of where we walked in anyway. So we didn't make any sense. I don't know where gate 5 was. I'd have to look at a map, but like, we had to walk up a hill to gate 3 when gate 4 was right there to our right, which would have saved me probably 20 minutes of walking. So that was very poor. When I finally did find the area, again, I'm like, how are these doing these seats? Like, is K a section and then L's a section? And it seemed like the way that the tickets seating made sense was like, so I'm in section KL. It seemed like, because the alphabet, K is first, then L. So it kind of seemed like K was 1 through 9, and then L was like 10 through 18. So like, really, I'm in section KL, but like, I walked down the aisle of LM because my seats are 17 and 18. Again, confusing. Like, I kind of figured it out, but literally we were there 2.5 hours. My dad never found our seats. I sent him photos. I tried to explain it to him. I told him, just go, head towards center field. I'll find you. He never found the seats. I never could find him. He was completely lost. And this is a guy that has worked in baseball, he's almost 70. He's been to probably a game a year at least. He's been to over 50 games. We'll just say that. Different venues, different ballparks. He should be able to understand this. But when you have basically small little period structures all over the map, he just couldn't figure it out. And I know the people sitting around me didn't figure it out either. They were in the wrong spot, and then they would have to go ask somebody. I had to go ask somebody because I didn't understand it. And she eventually was like, oh, yeah, you're close. You just got to go down this side. So walk up there, take a left, and then go down. That's a major problem. Like, I know this is a cool venue and a NASCAR venue, but like, you have a baseball fans in a NASCAR venue that have maybe never been to a NASCAR venue. They got to be able to find their seats, especially when you have all this pregame stuff going on. And then, the rain, we can kind of talk about that now too. The rain was such a major issue. There's no rain coverage anywhere. Obviously, if you're in the bleachers, none. And even in the infield, like the VIP sections that are basically next to the grass, there's no coverage there either. Even when I saw it on TV later with the players, like the dugouts were not even fully covered. Like, you could see that the dugouts were getting soaked and drenched and puddles were there and players were getting wet. And like, I know you can't account for rain, Mother Nature, like, but when you work in operations or logistics, you have to think of these things. You have to think of, okay, well, if A happens with the rain, like, do we have tarps? Okay, do we have enough people to pull tarps? Okay, so we got that tarped. Do we have blowers to get, once we dump the water off the tarp from the infield, do we have blowers to then help the draining of all the water we just dumped in the outfield? I also worked on the grounds crew a couple years ago. So, okay. I found out later because I'd mentioned this on my drive in there to my mom when I was asking her to check the radar. I was like, I really hope they built in a system for drainage because this game's only for one game for one day. I could see them being lazy and just being like, fuck it, just even it out, put it on top. I ran into the tarp guy or the guys that put down the turf later in the night after I'd left, and they had said, oh, no, it's good. It's good. It's put in and everything. But again, he was like, we did the turf. We didn't do the dirt, and the dirt did not hold squat. The rain just sat on there in puddles. It was not good. But regardless, there was really no coverage from the rain. So you had poor kids and ladies and people that were not prepared, just completely drenched. Even when you walk down into like the concourse area, like the seats are above you, so there's somewhat protection. But I don't know if that facility is old or what, but like the water would leak from the seats into the concourse. So that was uncomfortable as well. So it's kind of like you had to find your real estate and like, corner it off so nobody would stand next to your area so you could not get soaked. There's nothing more uncomfortable than being unfed, which apparently I found out later they ran out of food. My dad, I think, even said they ran out of something, and I was like, really? We just got here. The game hasn't even started officially. So ran out of food. As far as I saw, and again, I didn't look too hard, but like simple stuff like that, as hot as the summers we've been, you got to sell sunscreen. You got to have hydration stations for people that, overheat. And if you knew there was going to be rain, and the Bristol locals that I talked to said, man, it rains here like every day. You got to sell ponchos or rain jackets or something like that. And as far as I'm concerned, I didn't see any. And I was walking by, like looking up at the shirts and such too. So didn't see that either. But that was just, I guess we're kind of just going play by play on it. We're not really doing positives, negatives at this point. But needless to say, I found my seat. And apparently I'm in one of those sections where if you did watch the game and they showed like the flag, or I don't know if it was a checkered flag or American flag or what, but I'm one of those people holding up the things. Yeah, that was not really explained very well on the actual thing. That was probably like this big. It was like step 1, or like stage 1, you'll have to hold this. Stage 2, you'll have to hold this. And I'm reading it and I'm just like, when's stage 1? One stage 2, like what are we even doing? And then eventually there was like a little visual, so I was like, okay, stage 1, I guess I need to stand. Stage 2, I need to sit. But I'm like, depending on the camera angle, why does that matter? Like everyone in our section had the same color, so I don't know. Maybe I overthought it too much, but I was like, this doesn't make any sense. But the pregame stuff, like the Tim McGraw thing was kind of cool. It was way too far because I knew I wasn't going to be able to see that because that was like on the field. They had a whole like thing built over there where like left field was like behind there for his concert. I could see him, but like obviously it's so far away, like couldn't really like see him that well. But they had the big screen on the field, so I could kind of watch him on there. That was kind of cool. Sound system just wasn't up to par. So, because I know some of his songs, I kind of knew what song was being played, but I couldn't really like keep up with the lyrics. So, for anyone that was new or didn't know Tim McGraw, they're probably like, "What? What is he saying?" Like there was a couple songs where I could kind of see small on the board, like they had the lyrics, so I could follow along that way. I think Pitbull came on for 1.5 song, which I know some people were ticked about because they were like, "Man, if I paid for a Pitbull concert, that was not a concert, that was an introduction." Like that was it. And then it was like ready for the game time. So again, my dad's still trying to find the seat, so I'm like looking around, I'm texting him photos. Hey, here I am, here's what you need to look for. Still not found it. They did a lap of the players on the trucks, which I thought was really cool. It was a nice touch. Especially it honestly made me think of Friday Night Lights or like any high school football games where you do those parades and stuff like that. And again, it kind of fit with that whole kind of like NASCAR meets college town vibe, which I liked. The little smoke things up when they did the intros, I thought that was really cool. I wish honestly that they did that for every MLB game, not just like the big ones, because I just think that's makes it more exciting. The start of the game, the revealing of lineups, like it would cause people to get to their seats faster, I feel like. So I wish they would incorporate that more often, but that was cool. And that's basically about all I got to see, because when they finally got Chipper and I think it was Johnny Bench come out for the first pitches, just the clouds completely broke and it was just pouring. I could even see it on the board. They were getting soaked. And I was like, I'm already wet. My butt's already wet. Like I had a rain jacket. I had a hat. My hat was starting to drip water. I was like, I'm going to go down to the concourse and go stand next to this lemonade stand in the stairs, and I'm gonna send my dad some photos and say, this is where I'm at, come find me. And I basically did that for I want to say a half hour to 45 minutes because, this first pitch is basically right before game time. So it's like 7:15ish. So I'm down there. I want to say it was about 8 o'clock. I was finally like looking out. Like I could see my car from where I'm standing. Cause again, I'm on like the third level, the 300 sections. And I'm looking over and I could see my car and I could see all the lots that are even closer. And just the sheer amount of rain just being dumped on all these grass lots. I'm like, my car is going to get flooded or it's going to get stuck. And I looked at the radar and, again, me in my operations mode and someone that's been there to like give suggestions on when we should pull tarp, should we call it? Like, I'm looking at the radar and I'm like, okay, it's raining now. It's cloud coverage on the radar is moving really slow. You're going to get about 20-25 minute window where it's not going to rain. And then you have an even bigger wave of rain coming. And I'm like, if that's the case, you basically have to have a really good like grounds crew team that can get, I was like, even if they're the top notch, super fast, they can't get the field ready in 10 minutes, whatever. And then players get like to be able to get like a couple innings in. Like you just can't do that. So I was like, by the time they get the field ready, they get the tarp off, they dump the water, they blow the water off, they put some quick dry or whatever on the field, they rake it, they retamp the mound, they retamp the batter's box, make sure it's safe. Maybe they even have to mess around with the on deck circles. I was like, that's a half hour. I'm like, by about the time that they get this stuff fixed and done and the players get stretched and warm up in the infield, it's going to start raining again. And that's exactly what happened. You got a half inning that was pretty quick for the top half. And then by the time that was like ending, it was starting to rain again. And then by the bottom half, it was raining. You could see the puddles on the ground. It was not good. Ozzy made a wild throw because the ball was soaked and the ground was soaked. And I was already gone by then. Like, again, I said this and I looked at it and I was like, my car is going to get flooded. I'm going to get stuck here. I'm 15-20 minutes away, which is like 8 miles away. I don't know if they even have Ubers in this area. So I basically made the call. I was like, we got to go. Like, I think they're going to postpone this game, so let's try to get out of here as fast as we can. So I'm heading out. I text my dad, reach out to him. I reach out to my mom too because I'm like, it's too loud to talk to my dad on the phone because everyone's next to each other. So I'm kind of telling her what to tell him. And so, because not all my messages are going through either because everyone's next to each other. The service isn't great there. You're surrounded by mountains kind of as well. So she relays the message. Basically, it was like, hey, just start heading out. So I'm heading out. I'm like, just meet me at the car. Well, of course, my dad can't remember where he parked, even though it's a direct shot to where we were. So I had to wait. Went to one of those tents that was outside of the fan zone and just waited for him. Then we finally walked back. Well, because, of course, my lot is not affiliated with MLB. They had no idea what was going on. They didn't know if the game had been postponed. They didn't know if it had been canceled. As far as they were aware, the game was still on. There was just some weather. It was like, the tarp was on the field. So they're all hanging out, just like kicking the shit. And meanwhile, there's a max exodus of people leaving because they're like, this rain's not going to give up. We might as well get out of here so we're not just getting drenched in. Like I found out later, there was no food. So there's probably a lot of people that are like, well, let's go get food and maybe they'll let us come back. So I get in my car. I get right on the gravel. I don't get stuck. But then as I'm waiting in line, I'm probably like the 15th car on this little gravel road trying to get out. And I'm like, unless the people are going to bully their way through, we're not moving. And there's no traffic people because they're not set up yet. They don't have cones set up. They don't have the staff in place yet. So we're literally just sitting there. And like, again, my background's in operations and having to deal with some parking stuff too. I was just like, okay, put my thing in park. I walk up there. I walk up to the road. I actually see two guys in their traffic uniform or whatever's, and like I could tell they must have just had a break or a huddle. And so I was just like, hey guys, are you gonna put one guy on this location right here so these cars can get out? Like, I know this is kind of just scrambling together at the last second, but like, are you gonna? And they're like, yeah, we're gonna put something here. And I'm like, okay, good, because I basically been sitting here for 20 minutes and not a single car has moved. So I just want to know some kind of game plan of what's going on. Like, I'm not blaming you guys at all. MLB has probably hadn't told you anything. As far like as of right now, nothing is really official other than the tarps on the field, and we're in a rain delay. And they're like, yeah. We just we're behind. We weren't expecting this. Nobody gave us a heads up. We're getting people in place. So I'm like, okay, just, do you know about how long? They're like, give us 5-10 minutes. We'll get this stuff going. So I'm like, okay. So I start walking back to my car, and the guy actually is like, wait, where are you parked? And I'm like, I'm that car over there right next to the porta potties. There's nobody behind me. And he's like, if you can turn around, see that orange tent way back there? He goes, that gravel road will go to that tent, which then cuts left, which is still another gravel road. And then you see that hill over there and that bridge and that, corner. I'm like, yeah. He's like, the car's going over. He goes, there's a gate right there that's shut that we just opened. If you can somehow turn around, take that route, take that up there, that's a back way out of here. And then you'll get on this road right here that everyone's waiting to get on. And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. He's like, we just opened that gate. Boom. Finagled my way to turn around. Again, my car's a go-kart, and it's muddy as F in this lot. Found my way out, got there, took the way back there. There was a lot of like random, I don't know if people camp out there or what. Maybe that was the tailgating spots that I didn't really see, so I'm assuming that's what they were. Finagled my way out of there. You only could turn left. Of course, I had to go left, so boom, got out there, got back to the hotel in no time. Again, it's raining, it's pouring, so like I'm getting tired of driving in the rain, which, it's been over 3 hours of driving in the rain this day. Finally get back and, go up to the room. I feel smart because I'm like, I'm glad I brought an extra pair of shirts and socks because I had a feeling my feet were going to get wet. So I kind of changed out of some of that stuff. I'm like, I know you might still be hungry. I know I'm hungry. So I'm like, let's go get some food and a beer and like see what happens. So we go down to the bar, order some food, order a beer. And other people are slowly trickling in. There's two guys that show up. They actually were the two guys that were laying turf on the field. So they were kind of relaying information. I was asking them questions. And then, of course, there's other people coming in and being like, don't know why I haven't called it yet. Don't know. I'm soaked. There's no food there. I'm starving. Like, I'm getting all these tidbits from the game. And, like, everyone I'm running into is from the game. Like, there's nothing else that seems like going on in this town but this game. So... But yeah, so I get my food. It's, 9:30ish, about what I expect. They start the game up. And I'm like, why are they even attempting this? This is so stupid. Like, you're wasting pitching. You might get a player hurt. So they play that one inning, half of an inning, because I don't even think they finished the first. And then again, they call it. They pull, it's pouring down. They put the tarp on the field, and we're like, just call it. Like, we're all sitting there, like, eating our food, watching other games, watching the news, and we're like, just call it. So they eventually call it at 10:30 and announce that tomorrow's game is going to be scheduled for 1 p.m. So the one guys that are at the turf are, like, thrilled because they're like, sweet, we were going to have to show up at 7 o'clock in the morning and tear this turf out, so now we have tomorrow off. Awesome. Me, I'm like, 1 p.m. Okay, well, we can get there easy. But when do we have to leave? Because both me and my dad were treating Sunday as a travel day. Because I had work on Monday, which is today. My dad, I think, took off Monday, which he should have, because his drive is 11 hours. But I was like doing the math in my head, and I have a dog, and I was like, I'm supposed to pick her up at 4:30. This is a 3.5 hour drive for me. By the time the game starts, it's the time I'd have to leave. I can't go to this game. And my dad was even like, well, maybe you can add like another day to her care or whatever. The place that I go to, they're basically not open to the public on Sunday or Saturday night. Like, they're gone by, I think, 7. So again, I have nobody to talk to. I can't add another day. As far as I'm concerned, they would have thought I would have abandoned my dog, and I'm not going to do that. So I was like, I can't go to the game. I know my dad couldn't even find seats by himself or parking. So I was like, he's not going to go to the game by himself. So next plan is bitch and moan about it. And I'm on Ticketmaster and I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that are we going to get refund? Like, I haven't been to a Rainout in years. And every time that I've been to a Rainout, it's been, hey, we apologize. We can either refund you or give you alternate tickets to another game. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, it's not really going to be the equivalent, especially if you're one of those families that drop $250 on a ticket or whatever. But I was like, hey, if I can get a free game to a Braves game, I'll take it. That's fair trade to me. Even if I like waste one of the tickets and just go by myself, like, okay, that's fair. Or if I can get a refund, that's fair. Like, sure, I got a free concert of Jake Owens and Tim McGraw and a taste of Pitbull and got to see some fireworks and some smoke show of an entrance. So I was like, okay, maybe I got, I don't know, $45 worth of my money. So like I'm not really that upset about the money aspect for me, I guess. But for those families of 4 or 5 that maybe they waited and dropped $100 per seats and then couldn't get proper food. Maybe they got VIP parking because they were afraid there wasn't going to be parking and they didn't want to stress about it. Like, wasted all that money, and then maybe the dad or mom had to go to work on Monday. And a lot of people drove from Atlanta or Cincinnati, which is 5.5, 6 hour drives. Hotels aren't going to give a crap about you getting your game rained out, but as the rooms start filling up, so the prices start going up. So I was like, that's not fair either. So I'm thinking MLB's, I've never had a problem with MLB in the past. So I'm like, MLB will do the right thing. They'll do the right thing here. They'll refund or they'll give vouchers. Like I said, it won't be the Motor Speedway Classic. This will suck, but you know what? Rain happens. You can't really control it. We're not in a dome here. Like, it happens. Like, we tried, but do the right thing. Like, you could still get a game on, Sunday afternoon. Maybe half the people will be able to come, whatever. More people actually showed up than I expected, but I think partly the reason of that is because they held us hostage in some aspect. Because I reached out to Ticketmaster. They said, basically, in layman terms and cutting out the corporate bullshit, we're just the provider of tickets. We don't make the call. That's on MLB. So, okay, you're useless. They're like, you can transfer your ticket. And I'm like, transferring my tickets would be to give them away to somebody. Not from here. Who am I going to give these tickets away to? And why would I want to give away my tickets? So you couldn't sell them and you couldn't get refunded. And I found out later that I guess this is a Fenway specialty where if you start a game, which they did, and I'm sure this was intentional, because they started that game, even though it was stupid and wasted pitching, and they got their 5 outs total or whatever. If you start a game in MLB, it isn't, what's the proper word? It's then suspended or delayed. It's not postponed, because postponed would mean it's to be rescheduled at another date. And again, my terms might be a little bit off, but bear with me. So if it's postponed, it's to be played at a later date. Okay, that equals refunds and vouchers. But if a game is started, you're in theory still in that game even though it's not being played. No refunds, can't sell, no vouchers. And then it was, of course, announced at 10:30 at night that it was going to be played at 1 o'clock the next day. So, what was that? 13, 14 hours in between when it was announced to when the game was starting? Like, is that even legal? It sounds like a case action lawsuit right there of like, you didn't render your service in a timely manner. You were not, like, you didn't give the 24-hour notice of the venue being changed or the time being changed. But somehow MLB is going to get away with it. And that really, really pisses me off. It bothers me that people, like the families, are going to lost a bunch of money and lost an experience. I think they're going to lose fans over this, honestly, by how poorly it was handled and how, yes, there were a lot of like rich people that were sitting on the field and they had the weekend off and they could just fly out the next day and afford to miss a day. I can't waste another vacation day. I can't afford another day off where I'm not getting paid. Like, I need to get my hours. I need to get paid. So I had to get back. And I know there's other people on Twitter as well that were retweeting and liking my posts and everything as I was complaining about this. And another thing that bothers me is that I went to look at, I was like, okay, I'm curious, what was the actual attendance for Sunday's game? Because it was not full. There were seats available, or there were seats out there that were empty because of people like me that couldn't make it. Somehow they put the attendance at like 91,287, something like that. Okay, well, they expected like 86, then got moved up to 80. People then were not there, and somehow they got 91,000. Like, I know they kept adding seats, but I'm pretty sure nobody was like adding at short notice on Sunday. So it makes me think their attendance record needs a huge old asterisk or 3 asterisks by it, because unless they were counting people twice, there's no way that there was 91,000 there. I mean, just roughly looking at it from the photos, from the videos, there's just no way. I mean, unless they're hiding that or counting all the workers that are hanging out in the clubhouses, like, or in the alleyways, like. But yeah, just a very, very salty experience. I know between this and the Royal Rumble that I went to in January, I don't think I'm ever going to go to another new event or another event that's like over 65,000, because I know from being there and then from what I've heard, it wasn't even like they had their own like Bristol NASCAR Motor Speedway staff. They had like MLB staff people coming in. So they weren't even familiar with the area. My dad said he couldn't really even find them to get help, which I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a problem. If they had people from the actual place that ran out of the building, they would know how to run their concessions, which I don't think the MLB staff did. And then similar stuff happened with WWE at the Rumble. I think it was the same thing. I don't think they used the staff that normally works there for like the Colts games. I think they brought in some of their own people, and they ran out of food after the first hour of a 4.5-hour event at the Rumble. You had half-hour to 45-minute waits in the lines. Like, I'm large events, large venues, I'm done. I'm not doing them anymore. You're not getting my money anymore. I'm done with this stuff. So I know this is a long ramble, but I felt like I needed to do this vlog so people can know how it was, how it is, and that MLB is, in a sense, taking advantage of its fans. And they're going to lose fans over this. I mean, like, even me, as hardcore of a fan I am, like, I filled out the survey. If they don't do something about this, like, I'm going to become one of those assholes on Ticket, StubHub or Ticketmaster or whatever, that's like buys tickets for $20 and holds on to them and sells them for $80 just to be a dick, because they don't care. They're just there to make money. So might as well get a piece of the pie, I guess. But regardless, wanted to vent about it, wanted to get this off my chest, and we'll move on. You know, there's other things going on, but it did suck that this was the one big activity of the summer that I was doing with my dad, and it just turned into a super stressed out, bad experience. So the only benefit of it was that I had purchased a futon, and I got my futon and I put it up. It's pretty comfy. So that's the positive I'm taking away from this. And you know, Violet, my dog, she got to have another little doggy slumber party. So I'm sure she had fun. But I'm exhausted. Had a weekend that wasn't really fun. It was just a lot of driving and stressful. So that's where we're going to end it here. Appreciate you listening. And let me know what your thoughts are on the Speedway Classic, because the fact that it was on Fox and I have MLB TV package, it was blacked out. So I couldn't even watch the game even if I wanted to. So you guys will have to let me know how the game was and how it looked. So thanks.